There is a really common theme in the bookish community in terms of seasonal reading where we all go absolutely wild for spooky season, Halloween, October, fall in general. I'm not sure what it is, but it just seems to hit so many of our kind of bookish reader vibes. I'm in Scotland, so while the spooky part of spooky season is 100% my vibe, the actual weather outside is not so much. We don't get those crisp autumnal leaves, wrapped in a scarf, walking outdoors, wearing an extra jumper. We get rain, we get mud, we get trenched fruit, we get the beginnings of frostbite. As summer fades, we go into the wet and dark season, and then the cold and dark season, and then the wet and cold and dark season. It's just a lot, okay? So the October vibe for me is more aspirational. I watch all your fall aesthetic videos, the pumpkin patches, the apple picking, with quite a lot of jealousy, but also quite a lot of living vicariously. For my TBR in October, I'm going to be playing my TBR Tailspin game again, and I'm going to be trying to stack it as much as possible with a combination of obviously my Neck Alley books that I am still struggling to cut back on, any recent releases that I've been interested in, and then finally adding that out with all the spooky books, my TBR or are on my shelf. I do tend to lean towards spooky paranormal and a little bit of horror, and I have been trying to get more and more into horror this year, so I should have a really good batch to pick from. I then have three readathons that I want to talk to you about, but I'm going to go through those and my TBRs for them once we see what Tailspin has delivered. This month, like last month, I'm going to be rolling a digital dice. It made it so much easier to see what the numbers were last month, and until I get my own physical dice that film better, this seems like the smartest choice. I'm also sticking with the D20 that I picked last month. Before that, I was using a D12, I think, and I was getting 16 or 17 books a month. Last month, the D20 gave me, I think it was 4. And while that's not perfect either, I would love somewhere about the 8 to 10 region. This end is better, and I'm definitely going to try the D20 for a few months to see what I can average out on before I decide if I want to change up the rolls again. So, with all that aside, I'm going to stop babbling and we are going to cut over to the game board. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Finally. So the first space we landed on was a green, and I really like the green spaces because these are the ones that generate a random prompt from my prompt card pile. This one was to read a retelling. That works perfectly for me. I'm a huge retellings fan, in case you haven't noticed. And this month, the one I've picked that will go with that spooky Halloweeny vibe is Lucy Undying by Kirsten White. This has been on my TBR shelf physically since I bought it in January after seeing Nosferatu. I really wanted a protagonist in one of these classic historical vampire stories where one of the female characters was strong and was put first. I'm hoping that Kirsten White is going to do that. I read one of her books a really, really long time ago. I think it was And I Darken, which was the first in her Vlad the Impaler gender flipped historical trilogy. Read the first one, I really, really enjoyed it, but I just never continued with it, and I never picked up any of her other more recent books. So I'm really hoping that I'm going to have a good time with this one. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. The next prompt that the green space pulled for us was an ebook. This is an easy one. Ebooks tend to be about a third of my reading, so I have plenty of options. Again, I'm going to pick some vampires to stick with the spooky theme, and I'm going with The Damnedest Thing by Hannah Rebecca Graves. This is about two vampires, Janice and his friend Etienne. They are opposites, and they've been vampires for a long time. They've kind of found their place in the world. And as Etienne gets himself into trouble, he and Janice have to go on the run. It sounds like it's going to be quite road trippy, quite full of little minor adventures along the way. I think this could be a really good time. I love a road trip story, and this one just sounds like exactly the kind of thing I would enjoy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Oh, yeah, 16. There aren't many black spots on the board, but I managed to land on one, and this is a reread space. I do have the perfect choice. For the past couple of months, I have been working my way through Dracula Daily here. It's an online concept, you can do it through newsletters, but I bought the physical version. And basically, what it does is breaks book Bram Stoker's Dracula down into the letters characters are receiving. The book is told entirely through letters, and you read them on the appropriate day. So you work at the pace of the novel. The book goes from, I think, about May through to the very beginning of November, and I have not been reading Dracula daily. So much of what I think of as Dracula has been films and adaptations and references over the years that I wanted to go back to the original source and see how it stood up. I remember not enjoying it, and to be honest, I'm still not enjoying it. The daily book does help massively. It's got little asides, little comments from Tumblr, little illustrations from Tumblr users, and that has made it so much more entertaining. But the book itself is still, in large parts, quite a struggle. I don't really want to drag this out any longer than I have, and I think that just reading ahead a little and finishing the whole thing off in October would be a far better solution for me. I still have the bulk of it to read, so though I've started it, I still think this is a fairly good fill for this prompt. 1, 2, 3, 4. The purple spots are challenge spots, and technically this was meant to be things like Buzzword-a-thon, it was meant to be things like the Year in Aldia, but what I'm going to use this one for this month, because I need to, is arcs. One of my big goals this year was to bring my NetGalley goal down from wherever it was into single digits. And I've read a lot of my NetGalley books this year. I've read lots of them. But I've also requested a lot and my number has gone up. So I really want to focus on that. For this prompt, I am going to read Slayers of Old by Jim C. Hines. I've read Hines' work in the past when he was writing more kind of fantasy and specifically fantasy princess retellings. But this one seems to dip its toe more into, I think, kind of cozy horror, which is a genre that is perfect for me. This has been pitched as The Golden Girls meets Buffy the Vampire Slayer. We have these kind of heroic characters who are going to come out of retirement to deal with some eldritch monsters, and I think this sounds like it could be a really good time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, 7. Oh. Another prompt card, and this is a person on the cover. For this one, I am going to be sticking in that realm of vampires, and I'm going with A Long Time Dead by Samara Berger. This one is historical lesbian vampires, which after reading Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil last month, feels like a nice continuation. I don't know anything else about this other than the genres, because the cover, this really kind of classic vintage pulp novel cover design, it sold me right away. I didn't need any more. So this one looks like a good time. 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Another prompt, and this one is to read a standalone. The book that I've picked doesn't fit the spooky vibe that the rest of my TBR does, but it is another arc and I really want to work through those. So I'll be reading Love and Video Games by Zachary Sergey. This is about a gay 18-year-old who has undiagnosed chronic pain and an obsession with mythology. He is part of a team of video gamers who are going to be taking part in a big tournament, and obviously some kind of romance ensues there. The book is being pitched as Heartstopper meets Ready Player One, and I think this sounds like it could be a really good time. I too am a massive mythology nerd, but I've never really been a gamer. I read Alexis Hall's Looking for Group last month. I did struggle with a lot of the gaming elements, but this one sounds like the gaming might not be as prevalent. And even if it is, I've done my learning last month, so I'm looking forward to this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Doesn't want to come up. Another green, and we have 400 plus pages. For this one, I'm going to read The Games Gods Play by Abigail Owen. This is one that Clint at Reads Readers actually recommended to me while we were buddy reading The Blood of Hercules by Jasmine Maz. The Blood of Hercules was definitely not a winner for me, but it was one that Clint absolutely loved. He also really loved Games Gods Play, and I already have a physical copy on my shelf. The sequel is coming out either last month or this month or next month, this end of the year. So I really want to get to it, see what I think, and decide if I want to continue the series. It's not on its face super spooky, although as we said, I'm up for anything mythology themed. But this is one where Hades, the god of death in the underworld, is our kind of main mythical figure. So I think it still counts. 14. One, two, three, four, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Another green prompt, which is fine because I really enjoy these. These are my favorite space to land on. But we got another one, and this one is to read a book with an element in the title, so like fire, water, earth. I really did think it would be a lot easier to find a book that matched that prompt on my shelf, but I actually really struggled. Eventually though, I actually found one that goes above and beyond. This has both an element in the title and the word element in the title, and it is The Element of Fire by Martha Wells. I really don't know anything about this book. I picked it up purely because of the author. I think it's set in a fantasy city, and there's quite a lot of bureaucracy and politicking and really high level fantasy going on. The Martha Wells Murderbot is so beloved, but sci-fi really isn't my thing. I tried the first Murderbot novella and I enjoyed it fine, but it's at somewhere around a 3 for me, rather than being the be all and end all that so many people seem to get from it. I'm hoping that my issue with that is maybe that sci-fi is just not something I tend to adore, whereas fantasy is far more my genre. So my thought is that if I try Martha Wells writing fantasy, I might find a favourite. 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So those were the Tailspin rolls, and I ended up with 8 books, which is almost exactly what I wanted. I also managed to keep them largely in that spooky Halloween vibe. There's lots of vampires, and I'm hoping that maybe I'll add some other types of spooky and types of horror in there, but I think I have a really good base of operation. So I did say that there were 3 readathons specifically I wanted to take part in this month. There are lots of readathons I want to take part in this month. October seems to be the month when everyone has a readathon, and as I said, they're kind of spooky or fall themed, and I would love to do them all, but I just physically can't. So these are the 3 that I narrowed it down to, and I think they're quite good choices. The first one is the least spooky of the bunch, and this is Victober. I've done Victober in the past, and I kind of fell away from it just because reading Victorian literature, it's so time consuming, it's such an effort. I've found some great books through Victober, and it's pushed me to read classics that I wouldn't otherwise have even thought about picking up, but I have been letting it slide in the past. This year is the 10th year of Victober, and I really want to take part again for the vibe, for the enjoyment, for the community. This year there are more prompts than ever. There are 10 host prompts to pick from. I'm going to use Kate Howe's prompt for this. She's one of the original hosts, and I will link to her announcement video down in the description. Her prompt was to read a Victorian novel that was heavily friendship focused, and this seems like a great place to double up with Dracula. So far with Dracula, I am really getting the Mina and Lucy friendship, the friendship between Lucy and her three suitors, their relationship with each other, Van Helsing and his friendship with the different characters. I definitely think it fits. And this is one I plan on reading anyway. It makes sense. I don't think I'm going to try for any of the other host prompts. Maybe I'll find some short stories that fit. But what I am going to try and do is join in on the group read. The group read is Hester by Margaret Oliphant, and it's very much about women being in powerful positions that you wouldn't think of in the Victorian era. We have Catherine, who is the matriarch of the family and actually runs a bank. And then we have the young Hester, who is up and coming and challenging Catherine's authority. I read this back maybe in my first Victober, so it would be perfect for me to read it again now. I struggled with it the first time, but I ended up feeling like I got a lot out of it. I think that now going back, I might actually get more enjoyment out of it rather than just a worthiness. And I think if it's the group read, seeing other people's thoughts along the way, reading it with company would be exactly the way to do this one. I don't know if this is going to get me back into Victober and classics reading in the long run, but I definitely want to do it this year for the anniversary. The next readathon that I want to take part in is Gothtober. This is hosted by Olivia, Hannah, and Tish, and again, I'm going to link to all the announcement videos down in the description. Gothtober sometimes has a kind of spooky aspect to it, but it really is about gothic books, which is exactly where my level of horror and spooky lies. I love a good gothic fiction. This year, the theme is architecture, so all those dramatic gothic spires and long hallways and heavy doors. What I really enjoyed about Gothtober in the past couple of years is there's always a really interesting way of picking your TBR. It's got a very choose your own adventure feel and really interactive. The hosts between them have some really good kind of coding ability, and they make actual games for you to play to generate the TBR that you specifically will get, and your TBR isn't necessarily the same as everyone else's. So this year it's a type of medievally castle crawler game, and I will put a little bit of footage of me playing it up here. I wasn't very good. I did have to go over some of the little books a few times, but I did manage to get all the prompts that I needed. One of the prompts doubled up. I don't know whether that's a glitch or whether I'm supposed to read two books with the same prompt, but for now I'm gonna take one of the spares off the list. If by some miracle I blow through this TBR and I end up with extra time at the end of the month, I can re-add it back in, but for now I don't really see the point in forcing myself to find a book to fit it that I'm not really excited about reading when I already have a book that fits the prompt, if that makes sense. So there are 3 prompts that always land up on your Gothtober TBR. Those are LGBT, disability, and BIPOC rep. For LGBT rep, the one I'm going to put on here is A Long Time Dead by Samara Berger. We've already talked about this. It's lesbian historical vampires. Then for BIPOC rep, we're going to go with The Summer I Ate the Rich by Micah and Maritza Moletti. This is about a Haitian teenager who uses her zombie controlling powers to take down some wealthy elites. And I am all about this. I'm really excited to read it. For the disability rep, I have a book that I really haven't seen many people talking about, but I saw the author promoting on Blue Sky and I was super intrigued by the cover and by the title. This is Cancer Eats the Heart by Paul Jessup. This is about a woman called Nix who lives in a small rustic town. She is struggling with both living with multiple sclerosis and living in a haunted house. The story kicks off when a vampire turns up on her doorstep. I think this one's going to be really good, and what's one more vampire book on my TBR? Then for the kind of generated Gothtober prompts, first one I got was Buried Secrets, and for this one I'm going to put The Damnedest Thing. The whole premise of them going on the road trip is that they've been poking their noses in places it shouldn't, so I think that'll fit there. And if it doesn't, then I'm assuming over the course of the road trip there's going to be some secrets come out, they're going to bond over them. I think this will fit. The next prompt that came up was unsettling character, and for this one I am going to double up again. I'm going to use Dracula. He's like the OG unsettling character, and reading him as he is in Dracula rather than through different interpretations, he just seems even weirder. So again, this one fits perfectly. For large cast, I am going to go with The Games Gods Play. This is a tournament style book where our main character will be competing on behalf of Hades against others so that he can win the title of King of the Gods. So I'm definitely expecting there to be a very large cast of fellow competitors. For a book with a bird on the cover, I'm going to be reading How to Survive This Fairy Tale by S.M. Hallow. This has been pitched as Thornhedge meets Harrow the Ninth, so I think that vibe could definitely work for me. The blurb is very, very short, so I'll just read it to you now. After losing everything in service to the evil queen and driven to the edge of sanity by a cruel narrator who won't let him die, Hansel must bring himself to do the impossible, forge his own destiny, or give up his happily ever after. Then the prompt that I got two of, and also the prompt that I struggled to fill the most, was a sentient house or item. I know there are lots of sentient house books, whether through horror or for more cozy fantasy, but the ones I'm interested in reading I've already read. So I had to do a bit of digging, which is why I'm not going to be filling it twice. The book I've picked for is Mysteries at Thorn Manor by Margaret Rogerson. This is a novella, which is always helpful when you've got a big TBR, and it is a sequel to Sorcery of Thorns. I read Sorcery of Thorns back when it came out. I absolutely adored it. It is about a librarian who uses the power of books to hunt down demons. I had a great time with that book. I bought this novella when it came out on my Kindle, and it has lurked in the depths of said Kindle ever since. So this would be a really good one to knock off that backlist. I might have to reread a summary or something of Sorcery of Thorns before I go into it, but I think maybe I have a rough idea and I probably could just continue straight through. We'll see. The third and final readathon that I plan on taking part in October is Halloween-a-thon. Halloween-a-thon is actually a really interesting one and perfect for my purposes because it's not just a readathon, it's also a watch-a-thon and an activity-a-thon. My plan for this one is to focus on the watching and activity aspects, leave the reading goals with my TBR, with Gothtober, with Victober, with anything else that pops up along the way, and focus on using Halloween-a-thon for the amazing Discord community aspect, the watch parties, and catching up on some of the spooky movies that I either have never seen or want to rewatch. Halloween-a-thon is super customizable. There's a kind of game board where you work your way around town. There's also a 3x3 bingo board. Both of those come either with pre-filled prompts, a list of prompts and some additional prompts so you can shuffle them all around, put them where you want in the board, getting rid of anything that really wouldn't appeal to you, or a blank board where you can put on your own prompts before you start. So there's loads of options to do. I'm not going to go through all the movies that I want to watch this month, but I think I will have a Top 10 Tuesday blog post coming out mid-month that goes through those. Once that comes out, I will again link it in the description. I'm sure I'm going to find more books I want to read this month. This is one of the best seasons for picking up recommendations as I watch other people's TBR videos, as I watch other people's reading vlogs. I'm going to come out of October with more books on my TBR than I went into it. I absolutely know that. And I might end up shuffling some things around, but these are the books that I'm going to make my priority. I would love to get some more spooky books, maybe some more recent release horrors into this TBR, and I'll probably try some kind of smaller TBR games along the month to help me do that. I really appreciate you watching this video. If you've got this far, I would love if you could like the video and follow the channel if you want to see future TBR Tailspins. If you have any comments about the books that I'm picking, any recommendations which ones I should go for first, please do let me know that. I always love to hear which ones you're most excited about or which ones you maybe haven't heard of before. If you don't have anything in particular you want to say, but you want to leave a comment to show me that you were still here, then leave some kind of spooky Halloween or October themed emoji in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.